In an ordained ministry spanning some 50 years this year, I've had the privilege of serving in some very interesting and lively places. Each of them has been of historical significance. Peckham, now a challenging urban area of southeast London, is mentioned in the Domesday Book. Tooting was a pre-Saxon settlement named Tottingis and also finds a mention in the Domesday Book. Toxteth, now part of inner city Liverpool, is an Old Norse or Viking name indicating a very ancient settlement. Chichester was an Anglo-Saxon town which became a Roman walled city with the name Noviomagus or New Marketplace. And Southsea, though less ancient, is historically significant, taking its name from the 16th century Southsea Castle. These geographical and historical reminiscences were prompted by a religious figure, of whom more in a moment. When I was the vicar of All Saints Tooting, or Tooting Graveney to give it its full title, I spent a week's retreat in the wonderful Abbey of Bec in Normandy. When I told the prior about my parish, he said, "Ah yes, our station, Tooting Bec." I must admit I had assumed that the name Bec had come from a stream or spring on the nearby common, but not so. Tooting Bec was so named after the abbey in Normandy. William the Conqueror had given land on the edge of London to the Benedictine community at Bec. They established a house in Tooting and members of the community stayed there, including two priors of the monastery, Lanfranc and Anselm, who also follow one another as Archbishops of Canterbury in the late 11th century. What on earth has all this to do with today's spiritual reflection, you may ask? Well, the 28th of May is the day when the Church remembers Lanfranc, who lived from 1010 to 1089. A holy abbot, theologian, revered archbishop, and noted reformer of the Church in an era of profound political change after the Norman conquest. Indeed, Lanfranc was William the Conqueror's chief advisor and one of his leading supporters in this country. He transferred the Saxon dioceses from villages to towns, for example, from Selsey to Chichester, and established ecclesiastical courts, some of which still exist today, like consistory courts and the Court of Arches. He was an energetic and independently minded reformer of the Church. For all his worldly importance, Lanfranc never lost sight of his monastic vows. Indeed, he raised the standards of the religious life in this country, both in discipline and learning, so that the monasteries might be a positive influence on the whole Church. Such is the importance of the study of history, if we are to understand why and how we got where we are today, whether in Church or State. Would that those whose responsibility it is to set the national curriculum and university courses were more aware of the importance of the study of history. But that's for another day. We cannot know a great deal about Lanfranc the man, but contemporaries spoke of his loving kindness and pastoral sensitivity. The historian David Knowles has written, "It was by love, not by force, that he accomplished the necessary reforms, for he was a most skilled ruler of the human heart." A most skilled ruler of the human heart. Lanfranc was never declared a saint, but one could hardly hope for a finer epitaph than that.